Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna present you four level of close readings for the passage that I taken from the text, which is, as you can see, Machiavelli's The Prince, chapter 16. The passage I have took is following. Hence, I prefer prince who prefers not to rob his subjects, who wants to be able to defend himself, who wants to avoid poverty and contempt, and who has no desire to become a plunderer, should not mind in the least if people consider him a miser. This is simply one of the vices that enable him to reign. Someone may object that Caesar used a reputation for generosity to become emperor, and many other people have also risen in the world because they were supposed to be generous. Well, I answer, either you are a prince already, or you are in the process of becoming one. For the linguistic level, these are the all types of words, punctuations, sentences that draw my attention while reading. Thanks to these words, sentences, and punctuations, I was able to fully understand what the author is trying to tell the readers, and I had image while reading, so because of these sentences and words and punctuations. In semantic level, I'm going to explain the reasons why the types of words that draw my attention, because first of all, for the first underlying parts, the author is trying to explain is that either a prince or let's say a king or an emperor should not do not want to use his own possessions for his country, or let's say who prefers not to rob his subjects should not mind in the least if people consider him a miser. Well, in this part, that's the all the meaning. That is the only meaning the author is trying to tell the reader. But instead of saying such in that way, he gives the sentence in a detailed way by basically explaining what the prefers not to rob the subject is trying to say, by giving information in detail, which is who wants to be able to defend himself, who wants to avoid poverty, and so on and so forth. Reading this part, reader can fully understand what the author is trying to say by this sentence. Also, there are a couple of words that I highlighted because they draw my attention, which are miser, vices, and generosity, because they have connotation that for the miser and vice parts, miser and vices is something that can be perceived as a negative emotional aspect for general understanding, but in this passage, it is something that a prince should acquire to be able to govern the country. Govern his country in a constant way, which is something positive. On the other hand, generosity also. If you ask many people, they all will know what the generosity means, but in this sentence, in fact, in this sentence, generosity is used in the original meaning, so that there is a diversity in terms of meanings of the words, that is, there are both connotations and original meanings for the words. And for the last underlying parts, where the author is using well, the word well, to emphasize what he's trying to say to the reader, which provides the reader with imaging that in his or her head. In structural level, I'm going to give detailed information for why these underlying parts draw my attention. First of all, in first part, as I said, in semantic level, a prince who prefers not to rob his subjects should not mind in the least if people consider him a miser. He may have said in that just in that way, but instead he before he gives should not mind in the least part, he gives detailed information about not to rob his subject parts, which is who wants to be able to defend himself, who wants to avoid poverty and contempt. These parts exist in this passage so that the reader can understand what author is trying to say by saying a prince who prefers not to rob his subjects. Reading this part, a reader has sense of understanding for what the meaning is in this sentence. Also, after saying a miser, the author says this is simply one of the vices that enable him to reign. Vices and miser, these two words originally have same meaning, but as I said, in semantic level, their meaning represent negative aspects in today's world. On the other hand, in this passage, it is something that a prince should acquire so that he can govern his country constantly without any interruption. So for the last parts, he says, someone may object that Caesar used a reputation for generosity to become emperor, and many other people have also risen in the world because they were supposed to be generous. After that, until that point, he gave the fact that a miser is a mandatory feature for a prince to be able to govern constantly. But while in the process of becoming a prince, emperor, or let's say a king, he should have reputation for generosity. As in this case, Caesar used a reputation so that he can reach a point where he's be able to govern his country, because the citizens of the country will trust in Caesar, because basically Caesar has a reputation for generosity. Well, after that, after reaching the governing part, he will have to have feature of miser so that people will say he is a miser person, but the citizens of the country will not interrupt his decisions, will not take side against his decisions, which will provide the Caesar, or let's say any prince, with constant governing, which what the author is trying to say by last sentence. Well, I answer, either you are a prince already, or you are in the process of becoming one. Lastly, for cultural level, in the sentence I have highlighted, someone may object that Caesar used a reputation for generosity to become emperor, and many other people that have also risen in the world. Well, until emperor part in this in this part, someone may object that Caesar used a reputation. Yes, that's specific area about Caesar. But afterwards, many other people in today's world are affected by his decisions. So they thought, they are thinking that they are supposed to be generous to be able to reach the place they want to be in today's world by becoming a generous person. Thank you for listening to me. That's all for me.